those work? Well, I think most of you already know me. When Rich called me, he suggested maybe I could talk about hobbies. Running and reading are not very interesting hobbies to talk about. When I told my wife about this, she said, well, your hobby is cleaning up the office in the basement, which is true. After I retired, I took home 33 years worth of accumulated stuff, not junk, stuff, and hid it behind the pool table. And that worked out until I got out of the legislature, and then it was time to do that. But as I was going through some of my old class notes, I ran across something that I had used in class several times, partly to relate to the material we were talking about, mostly, I suppose, entertainment. You might remember that a few weeks ago, Dan Van Person talked about his hobby of raising bees and how he needs flowers. And that's a problem when you're not even supposed to have dandelions. So it reminded me of this reading that I used to use in class, so I thought I'd read it today. What this is a transcript of a conversation between God and St. Francis of Assisi up in heaven. Most of you know that St. Francis is known for talking to and even preaching to birds and animals and trees and whatnot. So it starts out, God says, Frank, you know about gardens and nature. What in the world is going on down there in the U.S.? What happened to the dandelions, violets, thistles, and the stuff I started eons ago? I had a perfect no-maintenance garden plan. Those plants grow in any type of soil, withstand drought, and multiply with abandon. The nectar from the long-lasting blossoms attracts butterflies, honeybees, and flocks of songbirds. I expected to see a garden of color by now. All I see are green patches. St. Francis says, the tribes that settled there, Lord, are called the suburbanites. They started calling your flowers weeds and killed them, replacing with grass. Grass? But it is so boring, God says, and not colorful. Doesn't attract butterflies, bees, or birds, only grubs and sodworms. It's temperamental with temperatures. Do the suburbanites really want grass growing there? St. Francis says, apparently not, Lord. As soon as it grows a little, they cut it, sometimes twice a week. God says they cut it. Do they bale it like hay? Francis says, not exactly, Lord. Most of them rake it up and put it in bags. Why bag it? Is it a cash crop to sell? No, sir, they pay to throw it away. God says, now let me get this straight. They fertilize it to make it grow, and when it grows, they cut it off and pay to throw it away? St. Francis says, yes, sir. God says, these suburbanites must be relieved when summer comes. We cut back on rain and turn up the heat. Slowing the growth saves them work. St. Francis says, you aren't going to believe this, Lord, but when the grass stops growing so fast, they drag out hoses, pay money to water it so they can keep mowing it, and pay to get rid of it. God says, what nonsense. At least they kept some of the trees. That was a sheer stroke of genius, if I do say so myself. The trees grow leaves in the spring, providing beauty and shade in the summer. In autumn, they fall to the ground to form a natural blanket to keep moisture in the soil, protecting trees and bushes. As they rot, the leaves become compost to enhance the soil, a natural circle of life. St. Francis says, you'd better sit down, Lord. As soon as the leaves fall, suburbanites rake them into great piles and pay to have them hauled away. God says, no way. What do they do to protect shrubs and tree roots in winter to keep soil moist and loose? Francis says, after throwing the leaves away, they go out and buy something called mulch. Bring home bring it home and spread it around in place of leaves. God says, and where do they get this mulch? They cut down trees and grind them up to make mulch. God says, enough. I don't want to think about this anymore. St. Catherine, you're in charge of arts. What movie have you scheduled for us tonight? This makes it a little bit dated, but what movie have you scheduled for us tonight? St. Catherine says, Dumb and Dumber. It's a really stupid movie about, God says, never mind. I think I just heard the whole story from St. Francis. And that's it.
Thank you, Art. Thank you. Amy, where are you? She's here. Amy, are you ready? She's hiding. Yeah. Oh, and she's a long list. We're in the, Amy is our sergeant in arms this time? Oh. Anna, that's why. Why do I have down Amy? Thank you. That's why I have a badge, so I remember my name.
I'll give you guys a few minutes to look it over. 6 questions. U.S. American history. Our favorite subjects.
Sorry, I didn't mean to spell your name.
Oh, that's totally fine. Okay. I don't need it. I have a strong voice. So for context, these are the types of questions that I had to study to try and pass the Foreign Service Officer exam. It's 50 questions of job knowledge, which could be anything from what is the order of the Roman emperors to what is President Trump's favorite color? No, nothing like that, but even if it is, I wouldn't care. So yes, we'll just go through the answers. Hopefully you did your best. I didn't know some of these answers until last month when I started this chapter again, so just some fun stuff. So, which U.S. president advocated for the adoption of a universal metric system? That was John Quincy Adams. Which Supreme Court case established judicial review? That was Marbury versus Madison, when you had all those midnight appointments that Madison challenged because he wanted his position. Which plan advocated for the equal representation of every state by giving each one vote? That was the New Jersey plan. The Virginia plan gave representation based off population. Which of the following amendments virtually made Cuba a protectorate of the U.S.? So this one's kind of a trick question. The answer is the Platt Amendment, but the Teller Amendment was what ironically said that the U.S. would protect Cuba from international influence while we exerted our own. So, all that fun type of stuff. Which of these is considered the first and most successful slave rebellions? This one was a nice question. I gave you 2 right answers. The Stono and the Cato Rebellion are the same thing. 2 names for one uprising. These led to the slave codes in the South. And then which president's assassination led to the reform of the spoil system via the Civil Service Act? That was James Garfield. Yeah, so if you think you would pass this exam, you better put down $4 because you will not. If you think you will fail, you can put down 1 because I believe you. I don't think I'll pass either.
Thank you, Andy. Our speakers, plural, today will be the school principals. And Damien, if you'd please introduce them.
You guys all come up and just all talk together. I'll use my teacher voice if I can.
We don't have one.
Well, thanks again for having us. It's always fun for us to get a chance to come up and share some things about the school. Some of you know some of our members of our administrative team, and many of you maybe don't. So today we just plan to have each of those members share a little bit about who they are and a little bit about their building. And then right after this, we're going to a school board retreat, so we'll be kind of bugging out right after this. But most of you know me. I'm Damon Elvey, Superintendent of Schools. Came to USD for my undergraduate 30 years ago and traveled around in between and ended up back here 5 years ago, starting my 6th year as superintendent here in the Vermillion School District. I'll let those guys share and we'll take some questions, and then I, of course, will be back in about a month or so to talk about the annual school report that I share with you guys with some other specific details. But I'll introduce Kim Johnson is our principal at Austin Elementary, the most veteran member of our staff at this point, besides Mr. Huska, who's not available here. Jennifer Olafson is our Director of Special Services. She works with a variety of departments within the district. Sam Jacobs is a principal at Jolly Elementary School. Tom O'Boyle is the middle school principal, and John Fry is our high school principal. So I'll let each of them come up and share briefly a little bit about themselves, and then at the end we'll take any questions from the group. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Kim Johnson, as Dr. Albee said, and I'm at Austin School. This is my 26th year with the district. I had 1 year prior in another district, but otherwise all my years in education have been here as a teacher and now as curriculum director and administrator at Austin School. Austin it's changed over the years, its population base and the grade levels that it has. We currently have almost 300 students preschool through 1st grade. So yes, we talked at our table, it's a little bit like herding cats in the next few weeks, but it's an awesome space to be in. We have almost 40 staff that help facilitate that workload and an awesome crew on board. When I think about Austin School and what's unique to Austin, and something that we're very proud of that I think we do very well, is create that warm and welcoming early learning environment. For many of our kiddos, this is their first formal school experience, and it's our job to make sure that that transition is positive and pleasant and welcoming, and that we set them up for success and a great attitude about their school career from then on. Our team I'm just very proud of all the staff on the Austin family, and they all are fully committed to that. That is our mission. And I should say also, as I look at Chuck, I want to thank the Rotary for the annual book giveaway that happens every winter. That is a highly anticipated and much appreciated event for our students, so thank you for that. I would say the biggest challenge for our district, well, for Austin especially, and the others may share the same, is some of the learning loss of the COVID years. In my building specifically, I have young students coming who missed out on some of those early learning experiences and those preschool or outdoor group activities that have helped prepare them for what it's like to be part of a group in a setting like school. So we've had to be very proactive in looking at how we help front load some of that teaching and training and help those kids transition to what school really looks like. So we are on board for the challenge. So Happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Olafson. I am just starting my third year in an administrative role. Prior to that, I had 21 years in the classroom under special education. And so I went from mainly just helping the students to now helping the families and the teachers with the students' needs. We have quite a few here in the district. We are up to about 250 students who receive special education support in some manner. In the 2 years that I've been here, we've added staff to help support those kids. And like Kim was saying, I feel like COVID has impacted even my world. Those kids have a loss of learning. And so now we're looking at how do we help them catch up. And sometimes that means that we need to give some extra support to them. Along with special education, I also help with the homeless ed. So any families that come to us that are in need of that. I also work with the Title VI teacher, which is our Native American teacher, and help provide some support to the Native American kids that are either coming into our district or they may leave and then come back again, and just helping them get through that educational process and see that school is of value to them. I also work with the ELL teacher who works with our kids that come from out of country or haven't been in the United States for at least 5 years. So we look at them and say, is there a language barrier for them accessing English language and content? And then how do we help them access that and teach them some skills that they need as well? So I have a wide umbrella, so I get to work with all 4 of the school buildings, and it keeps me very busy, along with just helping support kids as well. That is something that I look forward to every day. I still get to go into the classroom and be a part of that experience. So I have a great staff. Currently, I have 14 between my speech and language therapists. I also have 12 teachers that I supervise and 25 paraprofessionals. So we have a large group that's eager to get started this school year and support the kids that need some extra support. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam Jacobs. I'm the principal at Jolly Elementary. This upcoming year will be my 5th year here in Vermillion. 15th year overall. I was K-8 principal and athletic director at a small school outside of Sioux Falls, 20 minutes outside of Sioux Falls, Montrose. And then I was a 2nd grade teacher for 5 years prior to that. So my wife has made me promise that I can't be on the 5-5-5 plan. So after this year, I got to stick around here. I've got 2 boys. Grayson, he'll be over at the middle school. I've had him as a student for 7 years, so Mr. O'Boyle will get him next year for the first time of another principal. And Nolan, my other son, will be a 4th grader, so I still have 2 more years of partner to ride to work with. I think I was always meant to be here in Vermillion. Growing up, I lived in Springfield, South Dakota, and my parents we'd come over for all the USD basketball games, football games. We'd go travel, do the NCC tournament back when it was the North Central Conference. One of my favorite memories ever, and my mom probably still is upset with me to this day, is I was probably had been about 8, 9 years old, and we were at basketball game, and USD basketball game, and the jackrabbit got thrown out onto the court, and we were on the lower level, and I swear my dad said, "Go get that rabbit." And he said, "Look at that rabbit." Well, I ran onto that court, grabbed that sucker, put it up into the air, and was like just happy as could be. And I heard a lot of cheering and a lot of, "Oh." And my mom was so mad because I was covered in jackrabbit fur, and it was quite the ordeal. She had to take me to the bathroom, get me all cleaned up, and she was just really upset about it. But it was a really good memory. I came here, graduated from USD. This is where I met my wife. We left the area up to Sioux Falls for 10 years, and we decided to bring our 2 recruits back with us. So this is where we plan on staying, and the community's been great. One of the big challenges for our district, and I think a lot of people, including some of my neighbors, when I first got here, didn't understand the level of poverty and transition that families, the transient population that we have moving in and out. But it's out there. If you open your eyes up to it, if you drive around Vermillion, you'll see it. And that can be challenging because by the time that we get these students comfortable with us and we get them the support that they need, then they're moving on from us, and then they kind of start all over again. So that's a challenge. We're working on kind of coming up with some solutions that are ongoing, depending on the student population that we get in and out. But I do believe that our school is headed into the right direction. We're consistently adding new staff to help us support the areas of need that come across our table. So right now we have new student registration going on today and tomorrow. I believe that we will crack over 400 kids at Jolly in grades 2 through 5. 5 years ago when I started, we started out with 348 students. So it's slowly growing, which is a good problem to have. That new building can't happen fast enough, can't be built fast enough. We're running out of space. Austin has no space. We can still wiggle a little bit at Jolly, but I'd like to thank you guys. I know just by the group, the population that we have here, I'm sure I had a lot of support for that building, and we really appreciate it. The kids need a new space, and I'm hoping this is the 5th year. 3 out of the 4 years that I've been here, we've had to shut down the 2nd grade bathrooms due to plumbing issues. So I'm hoping that we won't have that this year, but who knows? We'll see. So thank you for inviting us, and thanks.
Hi, I'm Tom O'Boyle. I'm the middle school principal. I appreciate you inviting us and giving us lunch today. That's super. This will begin my 5th year at the middle school and my 40th year in public education, so it's kind of a cool deal for me. I'm also the high school football coach as of last year, and we're 3 days in this year, so if I'm not completing sentences or suddenly start yelling, you'll understand how our first 3 days have gone. We will welcome 340 middle schoolers, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders this fall at this point in time. Before it slips my mind, I will concur with Sam. I think he made a great point. We do great things with kids. We don't hear about those very often. Unfortunately, that's not what sells. And as I stand here in what used to be the new Armory, as I came to school here in 1978 and played football and was graduated in May of '82. I might have witnessed a few of the bunnies being whistled out on the floor in this building, as Sam brought up. But some great things that we did last year because of the community and because of the job that the other principals do in their buildings and our parents. Our middle school was recognized by the U.S. World in News Report as one of the top 5 middle schools in the state and upper Midwest. It was quite a great feeling for our staff to be able to walk by that staff or that sign every day and feel good about Vermillion. It certainly is a pat on the back. The job that our staff does every day is not an easy one. We have 32 staff members that we share staff with other buildings and go back and forth. We were able to start a science fair last year, which was a huge success for our kids, and it put science projects in the hands of every student in our building. They were in groups of 3s or 4, and those kids practiced all year and built things, and it was quite an amazing deal. And another thing that we're very proud of in the Vermillion school system is we were able to add 2 title teachers to the middle school staff last year, which helps reach out to 40 more kids in math and ELA reading that are a little bit slower. They're not on an IEP, they're not in a special program, but they just get things slower. And many times that's because of attendance. The poverty equals poor attendance, and that's our biggest fight, in my opinion, in this in the Vermillion school system, and it's hard. It's hard to get a grip on that, and you're sending kids out the door that you know aren't going to get a whole lot of instruction or love until they get back in the morning. So I appreciate what you do, and thank you so much for having us.
John Fry, high school principal. Unlike Mr. O'Boyle, I didn't arrive on a buckboard when I came to Vermillion. Tom likes to share with us the story of when he helped set the cornerstone of Old Main. Hit him up on that one. He will. I am starting, this last year was my balance year in education. I was a high school teacher for 14 years. I taught U.S. history, government, speech and debate, and then I spent 14 years as a high school administrator, and now I start year 29, so the imbalance begins. I'm going to have, when it's all said and done, I'm going to have been a principal longer than I was a teacher. But we are set to welcome about 435 students, at least as of right now. That's what enrollment was this morning at the high school, which is up about 40 to 45 students from what we ended last year with. So we have a big class coming in. We've also seen some growth in our other classes in the building. Families moving in over the summer, things like that have helped. But we'll, you know, it's a good enrollment number for the high school. It's a good size. Got to give a tour this summer to the class of 70 as they came through for their reunion. There were a couple years delayed from what would have been their 50th reunion because of COVID, and really enjoyed showing them around and talking to them about the changes, the physical changes at Vermillion High School, as they were the first 8th grade class to move into that building when it was junior high on one end of the building and high school on the other. And the great thing about those tour groups is they educate me as much as I can educate them about the changes and what they did, and of course the opportunity they had at one point with the help of a custodian to drive a Volkswagen down the hallway and things like that. So I get to hear about all the mischief in the old days too, so it's kind of fun. You know, we just graduated a senior class that included among us a semifinalist for National Merit. We had over $1 million in scholarship opportunities are awarded to our seniors that graduated. If Mr. Huska were here to talk about activities, he would tell you that next spring, we will field our first official Vermillion High School softball team. Softball is becoming a sanctioned sport in South Dakota. One of the things we're real proud of is the fact that 80% is the number right now that we're hovering at the high school in terms of activity participation. 80% of our students are involved in at least one activity in the school. I spent my previous 11 years out of when I was an assistant principal in Columbus, Nebraska. We were thrilled there to be able to say 60%. So for Vermillion to say 80%, that says an awful lot about not only the student body we have, the engaging coaches and activity sponsors we have, but also the kinds of activities we can offer our students to take part in. I won't, you know, I'll echo what you've heard from the others. We're dealing with a lot of stuff as schools post-COVID. The biggest thing is, it's nobody's fault, but COVID made not attending school okay. And now we're back in the mindset of not attending school is not okay. We need to get you back in school on a regular routine and showing up. So it's a big effort amongst all schools at all grade levels to really impress upon households that regular attendance at school for kids is a must. Best way to guarantee their success in schools. You've likely heard about through news coverage and stuff, but we've got a career and technical education program at Vermillion High School that continues to grow and prosper. Everything from students being able to build a house over the winter indoors. Not too many schools have that opportunity. To be able to do that, to learn a welding trade, to get a certification for cleanliness and food preparation in the restaurant and hospitality industry. We're looking graphic design and business protocols that are out there. So we've got a lot of opportunities for kids to take elective courses at Vermillion High School and graduate with an endorsement or a certificate in a specialized training area in the work in industry. So I really think as a school district, we're in a very enviable position because we're still small town South Dakota, but we're still big enough to have a wide variety of opportunities for kids. So I think it's pretty tough to top Vermillion School District and the opportunities our kids get here from the time they're littles all the way through to graduation. So I'll echo what the others have said in wrapping up and just thank you for your continued support of the schools through the bond issue for the elementary and the other ways in which you help our teachers and our students. And thanks for having us today.
We'll probably have time for just a few questions. As you could tell, from their enthusiasm and the things they talked about, you could see why we think we've got the best principals and special service directors in the state working for our kids here in this district. They work tirelessly and they've got great support staff underneath them, but we're missing a couple of them. Most of you know Jason Huska is our activities director. He's doing some things for some Gatorade stuff for kids as we speak, in fact. Ashley Jacobs is our technology director for the district, and of course she's on fire right now with all the technology needs going on in the district. And then, of course, we've got Kevin Kocher, which you guys have seen as a guest here at a meeting last year as our new business manager last year, and he's, of course, probably up penciling in some good budget items for us at this particular time. So we've got time for just a few questions before we hustle off to meet with our school board. So, Joe.
I asked this question a number of years ago and was really surprised at the answer. What % of the students in the Vermillion school system come from single-parent families, roughly?
It's probably over 50%. It's got to be close to the national average of that, but
the answer I was shocked at 20 or 30 years ago was 40%.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, that is a contributor to a lot of the things that we talked about. Families are struggling in a lot of different ways outside of school, and sometimes the education side of it is the least restrictive. We've got to do other things before we get kids to school, and that's one of them. Rich?
Children with special needs children, the question I have is, when you discover that, do you have the facilities or the capabilities of testing their eyes and ears?
Yes, our nurse does that, and then if we suspect there's more, then we give referrals out to eye doctors. And then we also have the South of the School for the Deaf comes in to Austin and Jolly and checks ears and noses as well. And we'll do hearing screenings on every child. We're just scheduled for all of the schools. So right now.
Kevin. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Rich. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
David, can you briefly tell us a word or two about the Angel Fund and how we direct that dollars?
Oh, great prop there. The Angel Fund is something that our Vermillion Public Schools Foundation has established for us, one of our great partners, like many of your organizations here. The Angel Fund is a fund that's managed outside the district, but is there for the needs of students or families that might be in our school district. Kids that might need money for lunch programs. Maybe they need shoes to participate in an activity after school. Maybe they need clothes because they lost all their clothes in the move to Vermillion. It's wide open. The Vermillion Public Schools Foundation is a partner of ours. Their office is in our administrative office up at the high school. And maybe I'll bring Mary down sometime to introduce her as well. But great program if you're looking for something to give some money to that has an instant impact on kids. That's a great place.
How do we do that?
You basically, if you call up to our office, it's just a donation to the Vermillion Public School Foundation. Just write on it, you want it to go to the Angel Fund. Teachers, counselors, principals have access to those dollars in their buildings to immediately hand out to people. Bus passes, lunch money, like I mentioned. Clothes is a big one that we give people. Some students are doing fine in their normal day, but I want to go out for football, but I'm not going to go out for football because I can't afford the cleats and the extra stuff. Guess what? We'll find a pair of cleats for that kid and they can go out for football. That's the types of things that the Angel Funds help with.
So I've been reading a lot in the national media about shortages of teachers. Like I think Florida, they're getting military veterans to come into classrooms to teach, which seems problematic on many fronts. Is that an issue that's Vermillion is facing, South Dakota in general, or?
Yeah, South Dakota in general, right now there's 309 open positions in the state of South Dakota. Now that's anything from some activities to teaching positions, administrators. That's a big one. I don't know what exactly that is for just classroom teachers, but over 300 open positions a week before school is problematic. In our district, we have filled all of our certified teaching positions. It's more challenging. Every year is more challenging to get quality high flyers into the profession, but we've been blessed. We've got other great things in this community that attract good people here, and then we can snag them. Whether it's the university spouses or other people, we get them. But we still have some openings. We have some advisor roles, some coaching positions that we're still filling, EAs, para positions to work with special needs kids, and we will be working to get creative on how to fill those up before kids walk in next week.
I was just going to add to that. Just from speaking to other principals around the state, I've been fortunate. The 2 previous years I was president for the Elementary Principals Association, so I got connected with a lot of principals around the state. And there's unfortunately several districts that I'm aware of that are smaller districts that, for example, Tripp Delmont's school district had 3 certified positions that they had open, and they have 0 applicants for it this day. So they're going to have to try to put some classified staff into those positions. Last year, I had a 3rd title position for title, math, and reading, and we opened that up and didn't get a single applicant for it. So I had a long-term sub going on there. She did a fantastic job. But then in November, I went up to the university to talk to student teachers that were graduating or going to be graduating, and I talked to at least a dozen elementary majors, and I asked them specifically if they were going to be staying in Vermillion when they got done, and they said, yes, we have our housing, we're not going anywhere, and I begged them all to apply. They would get a position. I had a 1 in 12 chance of getting a position, and all of them applied. If they did a good job, they'd have a job for a certified position for the following year, and 0 applied for it. This school year, we had 3 elementary teaching positions. I believe I had 11 applicants for that, 3 of which were not qualified. I do believe that I got some fantastic staff, though. I lucked out on who I have, and I can already feel that in the building by having them in. Their classrooms look amazing already, and then set up they're going to be a great addition to our district. But it's out there, but I think we're seeing that in look at the police force, sheriff's department is finally recovering from some of their losses of their professionals there, and our Vermillion PD is, they're struggling right now too. So it's not just in education, but it's definitely a struggle to find quality people.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A wonderful large group. So somebody here, some nice person here is going to volunteer for Sergeant of Arms next week. I appreciate a volunteer. Volunteer. It's an easy task.
I'll do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Okay. We have the guests. Drop the microphone here. All right, you're closest to me. Maloney, Michelle, not here. Oh, well, I'll tell her. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Should we stand now for our...
My country is of the sweet land.